Oh yeah, there's so much stuff happening right now.
There it is. There's so much stuff happening. There's so much stuff happening. And yet we are here to talk about the road to the national 2025 road to the national, the hobby with Cage. But forget about Cage today. It's the hobby with LAFC Gooner. Check that out. If you don't know who he is, or that's the first time you're hearing that crazy name, pause for a second, go follow him on Instagram, go send him a message, say, I saw you on the road to the national show with Cage. We're going to talk about the national in a second, but I'm going to do my best, like 2-minute intro before I even let this guy talk. Why Miles? This guy, wait, we're going to talk about some fun stuff. I've done a bunch of episodes recently about research, about how what I've found to love about the space again in the last year or so is trying to research something, trying to find something, trying to find a cool card, trying to find something that people haven't found yet. You know, trying to find that cool little thing that I like, that I want to add to my collection, that I think is cool, that not everybody's talking about and pumping up just yet. When we get to it, and we will, I have this guy to thank or blame. My wallet would say blame for pointing me in that direction of my current hobby journey. So anyway, Miles, welcome on the show. I'm happy to have you. Happy to chat with you. Thanks for joining, man.
Thanks, man. This intro was so much better than the first time I was on your show, but I'll take it.
What did I say? Did I say it's Miles? Let's talk. What I like?
I don't think you even knew who I was, but
Did I
whatever.
yell at Andrew?
Uh, Andrew brought me onto the show, so like you were just like, "Who's this guy?"
Pretty much. I mean,
And then years have passed since then, so I'll take it.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, we're talking probably 4 or 5 years ago. At the time, I did not care for soccer cards, and clearly that has changed my mindset. And we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk national. How many times have you been to the national?
3 now. Yeah, Atlantic and Chicago twice. No, 3.
Chicago.
Like,
You stayed clear of Cleveland. I can't blame you.
no, I went to Cleveland. No, so I went to no Chicago
Wow.
twice. So four.
See that?
Four for
Okay,
free.
so you've been to Atlantic City, you've been to Cleveland, been to Chicago. This one's in Chicago. Is that good news for you? Bad? Would you rather go back to Atlantic City?
I mean, the worst part of Chicago is that it's not in the city, and I love the city of Chicago. So like, you can't like going in to do the city stuff is kind of a pain, but still, it's fine. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna hit Portillo's and get some, hot dogs, something like that, you gotta. It's a journey.
No, man, they just closed the real one because there's like Portillo's, and then there's the restaurant that the bear was based on, and then they
Yeah.
just closed that place. I forget the name of it, but that was the place you're supposed to go.
Wow. I mean, I went to Portillo's. I went with Andrew.
So good.
We took our time to get there, and we walked up to it. And as we were walking to the door, the people behind it closed it and locked it. And we got there about 30 seconds before it was supposed to close, but it closed on us, and we never actually got Portillo's.
Oh man,
And we went to
Italian
another
beef.
place, and we were online, and the line was down the door. It was crazy. I got in a car, I Ubered home, and I Uber Eats the food back to the hotel.
You have to get it. It's like an Italian beef extra wet. That's when they put like the extra thing on.
Italian beef extra wet.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds like some of the guys in the hobby
pretty much.
after they've walked around the national a little bit, Yeah. They smell like Italian beef extra wet. Guys, this is the part of the road to the national show where we talk about deodorant. No, we're not going to do that. Battery chargers, nothing. All right. So you've been to a bunch of nationals. Chicago, you like Chicago proper. I got to tell you, my favorite thing about Chicago is everything's kind of right there. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want to venture off into the city, you venture off into the city. You want to grab steak, great. And if you venture like a block or two, there's so many bars, there's so many restaurants, there's so many places you can go to. It's a pretty good self-contained unit there, and that's one of my favorite parts about the Chicago National. If you haven't been there before, all right, so. Have you had in those 4 nationals, have you had a pickup at the national, a card you grabbed, a card you sold, or are you looking for a card at this current national? Are you looking to maybe move a card at the national? Any, card stories at all from the national?
Let me tell you how ridiculous the national can be, and like
Nice.
you do a lot of work with Mark at Fund Your Cards. Maybe I
Yep.
shouldn't tell this story, but
Uh-oh.
I won't get into super big details. But like this was before everyone was going nuts about superfractors, and
Mhm.
Mark was going hard personally on them. So I was just like, there was a guy in a case who had it tagged very reasonably. Let's not get into details, but it was tagged very reasonably. I was like, I know, I know Mark's looking for this. and he had the capital. He walked straight over and he's like, "Yep, we'll buy this like right now." And it was a messy finest superfractor, but like just the chance, and like you're looking in a case where it's like not, it was clearly not that dude's forte at all. He had it priced just at market, priced right there, hanging out like, please come buy me. And it literally was bought and sold, and bought and kept and done whatever with it since
So
then.
here's my question as I listen to the story. You were there. You saw it in a case.
Yeah.
You knew that somebody else out there would want this card.
Instantly.
You didn't buy it yourself and say, "Oh, look what I found," and make $5,000 on it.
I mean, Mark was kind enough to do something for me in the first place, but like that's not really how I operate, or like what I actually like need out of this. Like um yeah, I mean, Mark's done me so many favors in the past. What's the point?
Right.
Like really? Him and his family have been always like great to me, so like I see no point in like trying to extort money in that manner.
Listen, that's part of what makes this space awesome too, right? I mean, you know who people collect. You know what I mean? You know what kind of cards they would want. And isn't it better to when you see that Le'Veon Bell or when you see that, Joker card, you pick up the phone, you call Chris Hoge, you send them a message, say, okay, table, 13872 has a card you want. I'll pick it up for you if you want. This is how much he wants, blah, blah, blah. Or get your ass over here because someone else might find this. And you had it with a messy superfractor. Was it like the first day of the show? Or was it so long ago that nobody realized, just what they had there? Because we got to talk about that too.
I think it was the first day. I think first or second. It was pretty early into the show. It was like as I was walking around and doing it. But like that's the magic of this show, right? Like it's the one that people bring the shit out of the closet for. And like you have to be vigilant. You have to have your like checklist of like all the things you're looking for and be like, I'm ready to go, because it's like that wild eBay auction one a year and then you can go do it. Like
Yeah.
it's such a great selection of vendors, man. You never know what you will find, right?
Right. And like you said, people take stuff out of their closet mostly because, they feel if I'm going to be able to get what I think a card is worth, I'm going to get it here.
Oh man,
You
I
know?
know. I just thought of one more. Like this was at the last one, Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Like I'm walking around, and I get the chance to actually hang out with Spino, because I was hanging out with Runs with Bulls. I know, I'm sure you know him too. And like we're hanging out, and I get the pleasure to watch this guy's process. So Spino goes up to this guy who specializes in Japanese baseball. He was a huge Sadaharu O guy, huge guy, like some white guy who had lived in Japan for like 30 years at this point, got super deep into Japanese baseball. This is before Otani went on his rampage run for the Dodgers, right? And Spino is looking in his case and is like, he sees a BBM letter patch of Otani, very reasonably priced. We can't determine if it was manufactured or game used at that point. I just know it was a case hit in the product. Instant buys it, and then he starts talking to the guy, and then he asks the guy about like, tell me more about what you know about BBM and Epoch Otani autographs. Right? He's like, oh wait, I wrote a book about it. And he like bought the book on the spot, and now I keep forgetting to go message Spinatron to tell me what the book was so I can read it myself. But like this is how like I seek to like learn more and like add more to my process. This is the whole thing, right? Like you watch the best do it, and like this is how he's gathering all this intel to be like 5 steps ahead of you. So like
I would
yeah,
like to stick with the national, but it's a perfect segue. So we can come back to the national in a second, right? But I mean, what you're talking about is great. I mean, you talk about a card being found and, calling over someone who would want it and helping them add something to their collection that, they probably ultimately sold for a lot more money. Then you have, watching Spinatron and his process and finding a card and then learning more about it and probably leading to, a better understanding of the card. And he probably bought more cards and then wrote a very lengthy, wordy story on Instagram about it that no one can understand, because that's what Spinatron does. I love the man, but I don't understand what he's saying. There's a lot of words, but the research part of it. All right. So guys, just so that you understand sort of why this is a fun episode for me, because, Miles LAFC Gooner here, he does not do a lot of this stuff. you got to go to the Dagobah system to go and hunt Yoda down so that he can train you, right? So here's the fun part, right? So Miles knows a lot about a lot of different cards, but for soccer, I don't know anybody who knows more. I mean, we talked to Rodman, we talked to a bunch of other people. There are some soccer, maniacs out there, but when it comes to like the game, when it comes to the cards, Miles has been doing it for a long time. And last year when I was in Disney World and I saw a bunch of Messi jerseys all over the place walking around, and my kids were like, "Wow, there's Messi jerseys everywhere." I messaged Miles and I said, "Listen, thinking about buying a Messi card, not just a soccer card, Messi card." And he didn't say, "Okay, this is the one you need to buy," because that's easy. You know what I mean? What he said was, what I want you to do is I want you to do some research. I want you to spend a week. I want you to look at the Messi cards. I want you to look at the market of the Messi cards. I want you to look at, what's going on with the prices. I want you to look at the types of cards that are out there, the rookie cards, the patch cards, you name it. And in a week, after you think you've done enough research, come back to me with a couple of cards your research says you think this is what you should buy. And I'm like, I didn't reach out to you for homework, but I'm glad I did. And I'm glad that's how we went about this, right? Because I kind of like immersed myself into, learning about Messi and learning about how soccer is a little bit interesting, right? The rookie card, sure, but then there's not a lot of cards, and there's World Cup cards, and there's a lot of licensed cards across different companies. And, he didn't have a Topps Chrome until like his 13th year or 14th year. And, talk about autos and the various different kinds that are out there, and not a lot of game use stuff. And, so I came back and I said, here's the 3 that I like. And he's like, all right, let's focus on this one. He did give me a little, let's focus on this one. And it was flawless, right? And he's like, now do a little deep dive. How many of them are there? When have they sold? What are the patches on them? And I did a little more research, and I started reaching out and trying to add some of those cards to my collection. And you guys know, if you look at my page, I did add one. I still have it. And, many people have tried to pry it from me, but it has not worked thus far. But this is the guy, right? And I've bought a lot more soccer cards since. And it wasn't that Miles explained the thesis. We didn't even have a conversation about what made the Messi stuff so cool until after I had logged many hours of research, and I don't want to say got there on my own, but got to a point where we could have a conversation about why the cards that I liked are so important. And the cool thing is he can then tell me, okay, and by the way, here's another one that people just haven't stumbled on yet. Here's my favorite in my collection that just hasn't seen any type of price appreciation, and why it matters to soccer guys when it might not matter to the baseball guys or the football guys or the basketball guys yet. And ahead of the curve on it by many, many years. So anyway, there's my little intro into Miles. You need people like this in the space for a couple reasons. Number one, what you heard with his story about, about the one-of-one Messi, he could have bought that for himself, even if it was just a quick flip, but he didn't, right? So trying to help people out, but also trying to let people learn in the process. And what's funny is I've taken that outside of soccer now, and before I buy a card, I now do that same type of research. And I look for the card that fits into the exact, buckets and lists and checks off all the boxes that I want for a card now. And it's been part of my whole consolidation thing. And this guy, who I'm not letting talk, I'm doing a whole episode talking about him. This is the guy who we have to blame for it. I say blame because, man, it's gotten expensive, because some of the cards that the research leads you towards, they're not cheap, but they're awesome cards. So anyway, there's my little, my Miles fun, right? So when you do research, when you do it for yourself, you find any cards out there, you still think soccer is an untapped market, you still think soccer has a way to go, or has soccer kind of, had a little maturity and kind of caught up a little bit with the other sports?
I actually had a conversation with a friend this morning about, like, how can you express to somebody if you think it's actually peaked when you never thought it would get here in the first place, especially so quickly. This is way like the timelines were correct in the sense that people were anticipating this World Cup for so long, but like to watch the genesis of the market in the manner that it has, like I've watched so much of it behind the scenes. Like I never thought it was going to get here. So like, when do we actually stop at this point? Because we've literally just gotten cards in hands of people that actually intend on holding them. It took this long, right? And like, I've seen even like cards I own, like I actually asked someone the other day, like, do you actually believe that year in, year out, world football can produce a talent that equates to a first overall pick in one of our domestic
Right.
sports,
Yep.
right? And like you need that talent to sell whatever product you're pushing out that year, right? And when I was a more casual fan, I didn't think that that was possible. But now that I pay attention, it's absolutely possible. And like I think that you can develop an entire market from here. And like let alone like whatever we started with the 5 sets they were making a year when Panini decided to like dip their toe into it, right?
Yep.
It's completely different.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's and you see some super premium stuff coming out now too, but to your point, right? You see Lamine Yamal right now, right? And that comes on the heels of, if you go back, the last 5 years, there's been plenty of names,
Yeah.
5 or 8 years, whatever. If you go back to Mbappe and Haaland, and there's been a bunch.
Dude,
Just like
like
in every other sport, there's been a lot of people who you thought might turn into something that didn't. You know what I mean?
you want something hilarious is that the original Wonder Kid when I walked into the space was Ousmane Dembele. And if you go back and look at all the Leaf cards from that era, you want to look at the triples. It's like Messi, Cristiano, and Ousmane Dembele because he was the next Mbappe into the next Yamal, right? But it literally took him that entire time from Dortmund to Barcelona, now to PSG, where he's overcome his injuries and he supposedly has met the hype as to what he was when a Wonder Kid, wins the Champions League, leading candidate for the Ballon d'Or,
Yeah.
right? So like,
People want Yamal to do it. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo just kind of hurt his chances a little. Plus, I think he's probably splits votes with Rafinha, but I think Dembele wins it. But
I lean that way, especially because it's probably like it's a French award, so they'll probably give it to their countrymen. So like, we'll see how it goes. It's like pretty split though.
yeah,
So you know, but that's like literally in the one guy's career arc, right? We've gone through three generational talents at this point, and it's even that like, and even within the three generational talents, like it took that much to even establish Messi as the GOAT for you to want to purchase this card
yeah,
within your like hierarchy, because like if Messi didn't establish himself, then all those little kids wouldn't have that jersey at Disney World, which would have
right.
convinced you, right?
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, World Cup helped, right? But
Of
here was
course.
my thought process on it, right? And I mean, I see this, right? It took Zion, Luca, LaMelo Ball, Cade Cunningham. It took, those guys coming out year over year and seeing their national treasures cards sell for so much money, seeing their Prism Golds and one of ones sell for so much money, Logo Man sell for so much money, that you had to look and say, all right, none of
I think I just lost Cage.
You still there? Good. I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell happened there. So all of them combined, all those guys combined are not Jordan. All of them combined are not Jordan. So why not just buy Jordan? Why are you spending $50,000 on a Paolo Banchero logo, man? Just buy Jordan. Same thing happened. At least I don't think it's happened to the extent of Jordan yet, but I think it's coming. You see how much money people are spending on Burrow and Herbert and Jordan Love and hell, Kyler Murray, and all these other quarterbacks. You see how much money people are spending on them. Why not Brady? And
Why not Brady?
the same thought process for me was like, wow, people are spending this much money on Haaland. I mean, forget about Yamal. I mean, that I think is part of the reason why, the Messi stuff kind of exploded the way that it is and will continue to. But you see these people paying for the prospects. Well, much cheaper are the GOATs, are the all-time greats. So that's kind of where my brain was with Messi, right? I mean, people were spending a ton on Mbappe cards. People were spending a ton on Haaland cards. I'm like, what about this guy who's done it all already?
I mean, it's the same question in every sport with everything, right? Like people are just attracted to the new for now because it's what sells.
That's
So
right.
like, how do you break yourself out of the cycle?
And I guess I'm always on the wrong side of that, right? When Pokemon got hot and my son says we're gonna do Pokemon, the first thing I thought of, let's build the 1999 first edition set, not let's find the shiny, Hidden Fates, Charizard, whatever the heck it is, like whatever the new release is.
Dude, I had another conversation with a different friend today. The freaking a PSA 10 Moonbryon is about the same price as I want to say it was like a Gold Star Rayquaza. Like, are you kidding me? Like, are you people honestly kidding me? Like the freaking
How much is a Moonbryon now? It's four figures, right? It's like
it's like 3,000. Like a PSA 10 is like $3,000.
$3,000. So you could get, you can get for half the price of that, maybe a little more than half the price. You can get the 1999 first edition Pikachu in PSA 10. There's only like 300 and something of those in PSA 10, and that's like half the price of a Moonbryon.
Like the tides will come and go. There are so many copies of that card, and all the languages now that people deem relevant, and all the things is just like, yeah. I mean, people are gonna buy what they buy, right? Like if I've learned over time watching this, the thing that people trust the most, or the thing that people value the most, is like the liquidity behind the card, where like.
Yeah.
I trust the comp. This is what I'm buying, and then I'm only selling it because I think I can make a margin on that. And the desire of the card is basically on the confidence of how aggressively you can flip it. There's like no desire for the actual like card itself, unfortunately. But like,
By the way, think about what he just said. It's kind of sad.
It's kind of true, right? Like, how many people listen to your podcast versus like all the other ones, and like. What are people actually like participating in the space for? If it's primarily for like a quick ROI, you're probably in the wrong space because there's a lot of pitfalls in finding that ROI.
Yeah. And the videos that are out there that do the most views now are people at shows, buying and selling at 80% of comps and flipping, and now let me make this deal and I'm going to do this $10,000 sale purchase and blah, blah. It's like, it's literally liquidity based on comps and the churning of inventory and going from show to show. And, look what I'm able to do. There's very little content that's going to get views like that about, hey, I bought this card because I really love it. And I don't really care what the comp is because I plan on holding it. Sure, I may sell it, but if I do, it's 5-10 years from now. You know what I mean?
I've consumed a lot of that content to try to like understand as to like how much things have changed, or like how like just to understand like the newer group of people and like why people buy cards. I'll tell you something. I very, very rarely hear any information about a card that you cannot look up based on like what the PSA flip says or a pop count and like or a comp. If you remove those three things, 99% of the content I hear out there includes all that stuff because that's all they have to speak about anything. So like if that's the depth of the conversation we're having, or maybe like it's the speculative asset of like I think this player is better arbitrarily, like that I think that was the frustration I had within like the space for a long time because that's all people wanted to talk about. And like that's nothing of what I'm interested in at all.
Right.
Like
you hear before a lot of the crazy run up. I mean,
I was.
Yeah. So
in a different category too.
Yeah. So the space changed. A lot of that is still here. You know what I mean? A lot of that is still here, and it's a driving force. And I mean, part of the reason why some of the other cards are worth as much as they're worth is because of that. Because that's kind of driving, interest in the space also. And I think, there are people who kind of convert. People who are making money in cards, they want to also build up a PC. At least I hope. I hope that they, in addition to these, the myriad of downtowns and kabooms that go on an endless cycle, they look at it and say, you know what? I like Tom Brady. I want to get an on-card game used auto of his and then do research and realize just how hard it is to get one of those, just how messy. Same thing,
We talk about this all the time, like that people interpret what I'm saying as like being a hater or something, but like I'm not trying to be a hater, like because how any of these hobbies grow long term is the accumulation of wealth with all of these people. Like if your collection is worth nothing 10 years from now, you're not going to give a shit about this, right? And like the whole point of like all these things, or like finding the right people, or the collectors that raised me and taught me left from right when I was a kid, was that they all intended for me to grow up to be the person that I am doing now, spending an absurd amount of money on trading cards to
Yep.
keep this stupid thing alive, right? Like really my position is purely based in my opinion, I think that whatever the whatever the general public says about their opinions things will lose you money. And like that's the position of all these collectors are coming from, right? Like we want you around long term, or like I it's very difficult for me to find people to speak about this hobby on the level I seek. And that's why I resort to guys like you all the time and talk your ear off.
Well, I mean, listen, what I'll tell you is what you're saying makes a lot of sense, especially because, I mean, listen, there is content out there. You know, it's funny. It's, people who, oh, well, I'm buying collections. How many times do I get this phone call? Hey, I have a basement full of my kids' cards, or I have a basement full of cards from when I was a kid. And the person smirks. It's like, let me guess, early 90s, late 80s. It's all junk. I don't even need to see it. So you're right. I mean, you don't want people spending all this money, spending all this time, and in 10 years, their stuff is worthless. That's what happened with everyone when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Everybody who collected in that, what we call the junk era, literally nothing's worth anything. And you think like, oh, let me call the store. I got all these Ken Griffey Jr. cards. I got all these cards. I got all this, they're worth like $1. They're almost worthless. And, you worry about that here too, because what you're saying makes all the sense in the world. You want everybody who's here to do better. You want everybody's stuff to go up. You want more people to come in and want the cards that they own. That way, there is more value to it and the things maintain value. So I hear you 100%. But listen, I think an argument can be made that a lot of what's driving this space, a lot of what's getting the publicity, what's getting the press out there, which ultimately I think is a good thing long run, is this flip game. Is this, let's do a repack, I mean, repack in and of itself, because most of them don't have checklists. Anybody who gets in a repack, chances are they're not looking for the actual card.
Dude,
they're looking.
I used to buy repacks all the time, except it was Brian Gray's Leaf multisport thing, which was a freaking monster of a repack back in the day, man.
Yep.
Like, I don't. That's what a lot of people grow into it, but like you have to just understand from like a bird's eye view. Like if I was doing that when I was like 15 or 16 and now this is 20 years later, like I'm seeking someone to have that conversation who's been in it at this like year 20 that I've been in this now,
Yep. 100%. Well, so I mean, listen, the National has changed. The Breakers Pavilion, you walk past it, I'm sure. You ever spend any time in there? Because that is, I mean, what's funny is I walk through it, man. I walk through it and I say, you know what? I don't mind this. It's not for me. Like, I'm not going to spend my money there, but I see the kind of content that my son watches, right? And just like I watch him do, the NBA 2K, and there's like digital packs and all that other fun stuff. And I think, all right, well, maybe there's a future for that also. This is the content they watch. They watch people acting like idiots, making fools of themselves and screaming and yelling and like, oh, I got this 6'7". Look at this card I got. It's great. I love this. So, I mean, I understand why that is such a big thing, because I think that is the future of it. But it's only part of it. You just skip the Breakers Pavilion? You go in there and hang out, or what?
I mean, yeah, I think I skip it entirely. Like, I think I have some friends that might be out in that way, but like, yeah, I usually skip the whole thing.
Yeah. And I mean, so how about this? Because, I think you'll probably appreciate that. What about the corporate area? Because, you're like me. I like seeing some of the historical stuff that you just don't see anywhere. You spend some time kind of walking through and looking at the stuff that's on display.
I am surprisingly connected to a lot of the people within the corporate space, and there's like a lot, like, because like there's a natural gravity to people who've been successful collectors who end up like working in the space.
Right.
So like, that's who you end up meeting.
Yep.
Or like in all these things. Like it's just the natural progression of stuff, right? So like that space is interesting. Like some booths more interesting than others, but like it just depends on the medium of like what you're approaching the space for.
I mean, I just like it because, I mean, listen, the Honus Wagner gets put on display. The Mickey Mantles get put on display. I'm waiting for like what would be a soccer card that you'd put on display? The 2014 Prism Black 1 of 1.
If anyone has it, yeah, sure. Like I would love to see it, but yeah, maybe like, a Biz Rookie 10, like the 14 Prism Golds. a Messi 17 superfractor. There's a lot of stuff, you know, that I'd like to see, but like they're starting to, you know, I've heard some friends, they were approached about like offering their collections to museum pieces or like, you know, little show things. It's getting there eventually. Like I'd like to see it displayed at all because like as much as I admire Ken Kendrick's collection, I don't want to say it like this, but like I've seen all those cards already, you know, like um they're in every history book across the board, and that's like we already know them. Like I seek further than that. Like I've never seen someone do like a football display or a vintage basketball display, as a matter of fact, right? Like it's always this, or like even I have a friend who's like a top collector for Negro League baseball. His collection hasn't been featured yet, right? Like I would love for us to do more than the lowest hanging. Well, it's not low hanging fruit, but like the obvious hanging fruit, I suppose. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, listen, I love the suggestion. I mean, it's funny, museum piece wise, that black 101 prism from 2014 showed up and went to an auction. What do you think it sells for?
let's see. I think the rookie is like, let's call it like 2 to 2.5 million. I'm gonna
That
guess.
I think that's probably what I would have said also. And
Yeah,
guys, that's a soccer card.
yeah. That's wild to even think that it would sell for that much.
It's pretty nuts. And you might even be low. Who the heck knows? Because
Probably.
there's enough people who would fight over it. Enough people who have made enough money in the space who like this is the
I mean,
ultimate.
not even Jordan has a playing days card of that magnitude as a one of one. Like that's a joke, right? No way. Imagine if that was a Jordan. Imagine like given the logistics, like imagine if that was a Jordan.
Right. I mean, think of how many millions the PMG green goes for, and there's 10 of them.
Yep.
So and his game used, the jersey card from Upper Deck the first year, there's 23 of those, and that's a 7-figure card all day.
Yep.
So
Easily.
it's a very tough comparison. It really is. But listen, Miles, I can't wait to see you. I'm going to see you at Fanatics Fest also, as in the lead up to that. So guys, you'll see Miles at Fanatics Fest. So, if you see him there, say hi, tell him you saw him on the show. Send him a little message on IG after you follow him after watching or listening to this episode. And, maybe you'll see him at National as well. Very approachable dude. Go up, say hello, and you're going to get an earful. Ask him your question, and he's going to ask you like 8 questions back. Answer the question with questions. That's kind of what he does. But you're going to learn, which is important in this space. And for me, it's become a lot of the fun here because there's only so many times you can, buy the same cards, right? There's only so many times you chase the same, liquid stuff. Sometimes, the hunt is an important part. At least
it's more rewarding, man. Way more rewarding. Trust me. Like the other stuff's boring. Like it's so easy to do. Like anyone can do it. Like everyone does it, literally.
So you're not setting up at the National. You're not going to be at a table or a booth or anything like that, but you've walked a bunch of them. Any hints, any tips? Hips, I said. I combine hints and tips. Any tips for maybe like a first-time goer? I mean, you hear the deodorant and that kind of stuff. Any cash management tips? Any kind of like, some people say, go ahead and spend all your money on day one because you're never going to get a better deal. Some people say save your money until the last day because, if somebody hasn't made a lot of sales, you might get some bargains from them. They'll get desperate. Anything like that?
I have one better for you. Like, I don't think you should even focus on like the transactional side of it as much. It's more of like, this is your best opportunity for probably the entire year to be around a group of people and learn something that you literally don't know anything about, right? Like, you can surround yourself with your friends who are experts in all different kinds of sports and make yourself a well-rounded person because, like, you know, I've spent a lot of the last year learning about WWE because a friend of mine is super passionate about, and now it makes me more interested in just like looking at the stuff and appreciating something new because like you never know when you'll find something that is amazing that you didn't understand that's like outside of your normal scope, and like that's what this whole space is about, just continually growing.
Miles, they say if you're the smartest person in the room that you're sitting in, you're in the wrong room. So you are welcome to be in the room with me anytime because I know if you're there, I'm in the right room. So thanks for joining, man. I appreciate you. And guys, seriously, He's very, very generous with his time, at least until, you know, somebody gobbles him up and makes him like their personal shopper, some billionaire. But before that, send him a message, send him a question. The guy's really generous with his time, and he's very helpful. He's helped me kind of, you know, guide me with a bunch of different purchases, and, you know, talk me into and out of, you know, certain purchases as well. So, Miles, thanks for joining. I'll see you at the Fanatics Fest. I'll see you at National. And guys, that's you know, this installment of the 2025 Road to the National with Miles LAFC Gooner. Thanks, Miles.
That was a lot of plugs.